If I were to start my tech career in 2026, I would do things a bit differently. When I started out, YouTube was not that big. There were no endless roadmaps, no daily tutorials, no one telling you exactly what to learn next. Then the problem was lack of guidance. But today, the problem is opposite. You have too much of advice. Even I am giving you an advice. Open YouTube and you will see hundreds of videos telling you which cloud service to learn, that framework, this certification, that tool. Everyone sounds confident, everyone sounds convincing. Even I am, hopefully. And when you're starting out, it feels helpful. You keep learning, you keep following roadmaps, you keep ticking boxes. But then you look for internship, search for interviews, or you join a real team. A little bit of context. In the last few videos, I saw a lot of you asking for roadmaps to enter into cloud or what they need to do for internships. This is the one. Once you're done with all these check boxes, you realize something uncomfortable. A lot of what you've learned doesn't match the actual systems. The problems are different, the environments are messier. There are more questions around cost, legacy, and trade-offs than the services you learned. This is where you feel a little bit more overwhelmed and less confident because you followed advice that wasn't grounded in reality. So if I had to start my tech career in 2026, I would not chase trends and not follow random roadmaps. I would focus on something around like how companies actually run their infrastructure, and not just on cloud, on-prem, through hybrid systems, and how all of these coexist. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I would do that, month by month, project by project, based on real work, no internet theory. So you will have a lot of tasks after this video. Let's dive in. So month 1 and 2 is foundation building. Here we are getting the reality check. Now this is not a roadmap just for cloud or DevOps, but in general, if you're a beginner straight out of college, you can look into this and start doing it immediately. And if you are a professional already, just look into the entire roadmap and see what you know and what you don't. Here you can check boxes because you have experience. Let me start with the first 3 months because this is where a lot of people get misguided or lose focus. And just a quick note, all of the resources discussed in the next few minutes would be given to you through a guide in the description below. So you don't have to write anything. Just focus on listening. So week 1 to 2 is where you will understand the real infrastructure landscape. So one truth that you need to know, that most companies do not run purely on cloud. They operate in hybrid environments. That is on-prem plus cloud. They also have multi-cloud setups, like some environments run in AWS, GCP, Azure, OCI. There are a few that fully run on-prem, especially banks, healthcare, and government. And yes, there are cloud-native startups, but they're actually a smaller slice of the market. Understanding this early is very critical because your preparation should match where jobs actually exist. So on day 1, here's what you need to focus on. You need to learn what hybrid infrastructure means in practice. Understand why company stays on-prem, where cloud fits, and where it doesn't. Now, here, everything you'll do is hands-on. Nothing that would make you read a lot of stuff. Everything you're applying. So for your environment setup, first, you need to understand the on-prem basics. Concepts like virtual machines, bare metal servers, and networking fundamentals. To complement that, you will also pick a cloud provider. Pick your favorite one, AWS, Azure, GCP, OCI. And now for your setup, you will need VS Code with Copilot, Docker, Terraform, and here's the important one, Vagrant on VirtualBox. If you haven't heard about Vagrant, it's one of the virtual environments which, before entering into cloud, you should have been familiar to. Now, Vagrant matters because it helps you simulate on-prem environments on your laptop without needing extra hardware. Before we go further, let me say something about AI tools. Throughout the entire roadmap, you will be using AI to accelerate your learning, generating configurations, comparing approaches, drafting code. Yes, AI is not going out of this roadmap. And the most important rule here is that you need to validate the outputs manually. We are not trusting AI. We are just using it to help us. Just a key disclaimer. AI speeds up boilerplate, but it does not remove the need for you to understand what you're building. Keep this principle in mind for everything you build. Now, we jump into week 3 and 4 after doing all the understanding work and playing a little bit with Vagrant. This week, you're focusing on your first real project. This project will trigger hybrid thinking. The goal here is simple. Deploy the application first locally and then migrate it to cloud. Now, here's how you do it step by step. Step 1. Create a local Ubuntu virtual machine using Vagrant and then install Nginx. Once done, deploy a web application manually. Create your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. Then configure Nginx to serve the app. There should be a local host endpoint which you can hit to access the application. Take a screenshot of that. Quick point to note, you will get the resources in the description below. Step 2. Now containerize the same application using Docker. Write a Docker file, build it, and test it locally. Step 3. Time for cloud deployment. Push your container image to a registry. Rather it be a Docker Hub registry, ECR, Artifact registry, anything. It can or cannot be dependent on your cloud provider. You have to work through the access a little bit here. Here you will understand how to access those images as well. Once your image is pushed, you you need to deploy it to your cloud provider. Whether you're deploying it on ECS, that's Elastic Container Service, Compute Engine, or Cloud Run. Finally, you can configure your domain and SSL settings. It's up to you if you want to go down there. But a great exercise, you will get comfortable with DNS and SSL setup. Now, here's the value of the project. Most real cloud work is migration. Either you're migrating on-prem servers to cloud, migrating legacy databases to cloud databases. You have to understand that connection. So this project teaches you how cloud adoption actually works, not just how cloud native startups work. The key insight here is simple. Cloud is not magic. It is infrastructure with APIs. Now we are moving into weeks 5 through 8. You're going to enter into something that sets you apart early. A multi-cloud reality project. Woo! Trust me, it took me 6 years to get into this. So if you are building it early, you know what my next line is. The goal is straightforward. You deploy the same application in 3 different environments. First, the deployment is local. Use K3s to run Kubernetes on your laptop. Best part about K3 is you don't have to pay anything around it. It's free. Deploy your application using Kubernetes Manifest. Now, you come into this particular stage because you already know Kubernetes a little bit. But if you don't, learn while building this project. So in this project, you will be creating deployment YAMLs, service YAMLs. During this week, we are entering directly into Kubernetes and you will understand why later on. But I do want you to focus on Kubernetes. Now, the second deployment. It is on a major cloud provider. Now, pick your favorite cloud provider and create a cluster. Now, those who don't know, cluster is a group of resources. So basically, you can run multiple instances within a cluster. And once you have created it, you need to deploy the same manifest you used locally into this environment. Now, here's the part where things gets interesting. You learn a lot about setting up a cluster, creating a node, and deploying these manifests on a node, setting up RBAC, setting up other policies within the cluster. So it'll be fun. Key thing while deploying it to this environment is you need to track the cost. So you are paying money to the cloud provider here, unless you are using your free cloud credits, which I strongly suggest you do so that you don't spend out of your pocket. Now, once you have deployed the second cluster, follow the steps that I've given in the guide to set it up. I don't suggest you to keep it running, but the intention here is the whole environment setup that you will do while following the steps. So either you can kill the cluster or keep it running, up to you, considering how much you want to pay. Now, third deployment, and this is an optional one, but also valuable. Try picking another cloud provider which you haven't worked with. Just set up the Kubernetes cluster and see the difference a little bit. Setup steps for all the 4 cloud providers is in the detailed guide below. So pick another one. You just need something to compare with. Now let's talk about cost tracking because it is critical. Local K3s cost you nothing. Manage Kubernetes on a cloud provider has a fixed control plane cost. And when you compare, you need to compare with a mindset that companies care deeply about their spend, and understanding what you are running versus what your requirement is makes you very valuable from day one. So now when you enter into interview, you understand the multi-cloud trade-offs. You also have some hybrid thinking. You can deploy locally on-prem plus on cloud. And trust me, the future is hybrid. Prove your value that you understand infrastructure trade-offs and are not just following some random tutorial. Now, by the end of these 3 months, here's what you need to understand. Where most companies actually run their infrastructure. How on-prem, cloud, and hybrid systems coexist. How migrations really work. And why cost awareness early matters. Now, this foundation sets you up for specialization. And that brings us to months 3 through 5. Now that you have your foundation, let's talk about what specialization you can focus on. Through week 1 to 4, you're dealing with infrastructure as code across environments. So let me tell you what skills matters in production environments. First, Terraform as infrastructure as code. Why? Because it works across your cloud provider and even in your virtual environments or on-prem systems through VMware, vSphere. Second, you go into Ansible for configuration management and automation. Third, networking fundamentals. VLANs, subnets, firewalls, routing basics. Cloud abstracts this, but you still need to understand what's happening underneath. So these 3 stages, you have to do a bit of reading and following some tutorials again. And your project for this phase is building an hybrid infrastructure using Terraform. Step 1, you will use Terraform to manage local virtual machines using providers like libvirt or VMware. You know the specs in your Terraform file where you write about the provider. Here you will write about libvirt or VMware. Then you will use the same code to deploy it on cloud. Now again, your provider changes and your configuration changes a bit. Here what you will understand is how the configurations change between running something locally versus running something on cloud. Even though it looks a bit like of a tiny change, but that will help us in the later project. And this is also valuable because it helps you understand that you can explain ISC beyond one cloud vendor. And the real thing is that there would be scenario-based questions around this. So when you're working with Terraform configs, you will understand because there are companies that manages both. Moving into week 5 through 8, let's talk again about container orchestration. Since we are specializing into container orchestration now, you need to first understand the options. In the first few months, I made sure that you learn about Kubernetes. In these few weeks, you will understand why are you using Kubernetes, because there are a lot of situations with companies when they do want to move to cloud versus when they do not want to move to cloud. Similarly, there are situations when teams want to adopt Kubernetes versus when it's not needed. So here you will focus on Docker Compose for simple setups. Again, you can use AI to write the Docker file, and then you have to be familiar with Docker compose CLI as well. No rocket science there. Then second thing is look into Docker Swarm. It is mostly used by small to medium teams. Understand the CLI part here again. There's also Nomad for hybrid orchestration, and Kubernetes, is an industry standard. And again, pinning the same important part here. Kubernetes is not always required. A lot of companies still run their production environments without Kubernetes. So if you are getting interviewed by those companies, you need to learn things that are not Kubernetes. So the learning approach is obviously you have to start with foundations around Kubernetes, just the fundamental objects. Not every feature need to be memorized. Now, whatever application that you have deployed in your first 3 months, we are going to deploy it using different orchestrators here. So during that phase, we were deploying using Kubernetes. Now we are working with different orchestrators. The key part here is you need to compare the complexity and the operational effort. Let me give you a practical comparison. Docker Swarm can be learned in hours because the objects are less. CLI is easier to pick up because if you know Docker, you are almost there. On the other hand, Kubernetes often takes weeks to learn properly, and Nomad sits in between for hybrid use cases. Quick note, I've also shared an 11-step learning path for Kubernetes in the guide below. So what basically you need to focus on for Kubernetes. Now, once you have tried and tested each of these orchestrators, you need to compare these metrics: setup time, configuration complexity, learning curve, scaling capabilities, and the fifth one, production readiness. The lesson here is choosing the right tool matters more than just picking the popular one. Now we are moving into weeks 9 through 12, and this is where you start integrating AI in a way that actually makes sense. Your project goal here is to build an AI-powered application that runs across environments. Now here's a simple architecture. A user makes a request. It's in the query router that identifies PII data, which is basically personal identifiable information. If it contains PII, route it to local LLMs using Ollama. If there's no PII, route it to Cloud API like OpenAI, and then send back the response. For your local setup, you will use Ollama to run an open source LLM on your laptop. There's no cloud dependency here. This is very useful for sensitive data or for low latency use cases. For your cloud setup, use OpenAI APIs or a similar provider and deploy it in any cloud platform. Now this is a bit high level, but again, detailed instructions are in the guide below. Now here's a hybrid approach that makes you valuable. Route sensitive queries to local LLM that's running on your laptop. Route public or heavy queries to cloud APIs. This is a very good project and you should definitely try it out. Now here's why the architecture matters. Data privacy laws restricts where data can go, and AI APIs are also expensive. Also, latency matters for real applications. So considering these factors, the hybrid approach is the best. There could be other trade-offs, but I'll let you think about it. Now the key insight from this project should be that AI integration is not just about the model. It's about the architecture, cost, and constraints. By the end of these 6 months, you should have strong hybrid infrastructure fundamentals, practical automation skills across environments, real understanding of orchestration trade-offs, and hands-on experience with deploying AI without vendor lock-ins. This is where your profile starts separating from generic resumes. And now we move into months 6 through 8. Here you build your portfolio. For the next 3 months, you're building 3 portfolio projects, which basically showcases everything you have learned. Now these are not just toy projects, these really help you with interview questions. And now I know the fact that for all these things you need to get interviews, but nothing should stop you from upskilling in a way that would matter when you're actually in front of an interviewer. So apply, but also upskill. Enough of motivation now. Let's jump into the first project, that is building a RAG pipeline. Now the architecture flows like this. Your documents goes through a processing pipeline into a vector database, then to an LLM, and finally to the user. There are a lot of components that you will learn through this portfolio project. I've also added a few hands-on lab to practice on this in the guide below. And project 2 is infrastructure monitoring. You need to build a monitoring stack that works with bare metal, virtual machines, and cloud. Your core stack is Prometheus with metrics collection, Grafana for visualization, and node exporters on all systems. A lot of observability fundamentals would be tested here, and it will also help you with questions like how do you manage monitoring across hybrid architectures. So there you can further discuss around how you will be managing Prometheus, whether you'll be hosting it on-prem or will you manage it on a cloud platform. Project 3 is CI/CD pipeline, but this is a multi-cloud one. So here you are building a CI/CD pipeline that deploys across multiple platforms. You're using GitHub Actions for automation. It handles Docker image builds, automated test, and security scanning using Trivy. Then it deploys both on staging and development environments. A lot of learning around deployment patterns across cloud provider, and also GitHub Actions free tier covers most of the use cases. By the end of these 3 months, your portfolio runs across environments, shows real cost awareness, integration with AI, and not just demos. You're actually focused on like more interview related thing. And that brings us to months 9 through 12. If you're still with me, I really appreciate you. These months we are doing the interview preparation, something around real questions that you should be prepared for or worried about. Something to note about, interviews rarely ask you to build something from scratch. They ask a lot of scenario based questions. So if you you're a beginner, you may know the components and then there might not be like advanced scenario-based questions, but there could be something simpler like Docker versus Kubernetes. Can you answer that? So for internships or entry-level jobs, the focus would be your understanding around the concepts, practices, and then the tools. Also, there could be some scenario-based questions, but if you have worked through all these projects, I believe you can answer those easily. There could be some simple questions. When does cloud make sense? When does it not? One question could be, I have 10 virtual machines running on VMware. How will I migrate it to cloud? What would be the steps I should follow for that? There could be situations where they will ask you questions around like, our database should stay on-prem because of compliance. How will I manage the cloud connectivity? This is where networking comes, which I shared in the previous weeks. And there would be AI-specific interview questions as well. How do you deploy LLMs without blowing the budget? How do you monitor AI systems performance in production? So you can give them some real answers based on the practice during the weeks before. There would be a lot of behavioral questions as well. So I have added a list of questions you must prepare for. Again, follow the guide. Before we wrap up, here's something I wish someone had told me earlier. There's not something like cloud first. There are a lot of companies that have been running hybrid for years. And second thing is certifications do help with passing the HR filters, but it doesn't really guarantee job readiness. Even though there are few certifications that actually also help you with job readiness. My suggestions in the guide below. So focus on understanding the real systems. Don't just follow trends. Don't just pick a popular tool and start working on it. So the key intention about this video is also that you need to be valuable no matter if any newer tool comes into picture later on. You should not be known as Kubernetes specialist or Terraform specialist. So let it not affect your specialization. So if you focus on understanding the real system, cost and trade-offs, you will always be valuable no matter how tools changes. That's it from me today. Subscribe to this channel for more realistic guide around tech careers, cloud and AI, and I will see you in the next video.